The HOA didn't just take my land, they defiled my family's burial ground, forged my signature, and sold off 1,700 acres of sacred soil like it was some cheap strip mall. So I cut off their water. Not a drip, not a splash. They thought I'd cave, thought I'd grovel. Hell no. I made them suffer, forced them to crawl through dust and desperation, then watched as they tore down every brick they'd laid with their own hands. Want to know how I turned their shiny dream into their darkest nightmare? Stick around, I'll show you exactly how I made them choke on the very earth they tried to steal. Where are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments. If you love a good showdown with a meddling HOA, hit like, subscribe, and tap that bell. This one's a wild ride. The morning sun sliced through the valley like a knife. I stood there, boots sinking into dirt that had sustained 5 generations of my kin. This wasn't just a farm, it was a sanctuary, home to a private cemetery tucked among the trees, marked only by stones my great-grandfather chiseled himself. 2,200 acres of blood, toil, and memory. I wasn't just a farmer, I was a guardian. Every fence, every irrigation ditch, every wildflower patch by the creek was set with intent. Then it arrived, a letter. Notice of violation. NVY Raw Mental Disruption, signed by Linda Hayes, president of the Pine VY EW Heights HOA. They claimed I was ruining their community aesthetic, disturbing their peaceful ambience, and tanking their property values. My gut twisted. An HOA? On my land? I laughed at first. Me family settled here in 1885. Pine VY EW Heights didn't even exist until a decade ago. But as I read on, their audacity oozed out. Overlay zones, zoning tweaks, restricted usage. Something was off. I glanced toward the cemetery beyond the wheat fields, and for the first time, it felt like someone was coming for it. The next day, I was hauling grain sacks to the barn when I heard Ida smug, polished engine purring up my gravel drive. I wiped sweat from my neck, gripped my hat, and watched a sleek gray SUV roll to a stop under my grandfather's pecan tree. Out stepped Linda Hayes like she was royalty descending from an HOA throne. Crisp navy blazer, oversized sunglasses, trailed by 2 flunkies in matching Pine VW Heights polos, clutching clipboards. They didn't fit here. Mr. Grayson, Linda called, flashing a rehearsed smile. We need to address your violations. I didn't move. You're trespassing. She clicked across the gravel, ignoring me. Violation 1, unauthorized agricultural expansion. Violation 2, uncontrolled burning. Violation 3, nuisance wildlife, raccoons, hawks, even stray goats wandering into our subdivision shown. I stepped off the porch, boots hitting hard. Those raccoons and hawks were here when your HOA was just a bad idea. Linda's smile didn't waver. Times change, Mr. Grayson. Pine VY EW Heights demands harmony, aesthetic unity, and regulated land use. Your active VY ties disrupt that. I crossed my arms. This land isn't yours. Her eyes gleamed behind those absurd shades. Actually, it is. County Overlay Code 39.4. Your agricultural exemption expired last year. This parcel now falls under Pine VY EW Heights jurisdiction. It hit me like a punch. My stomach sank. The hell it does. My taxes haven't changed and I never signed up for this. Linda flipped a page. That's irrelevant. The overlay applies automatically. Cease operations in 48 hours or face fines. My head pounded. You're bluffing, I growled. She leaned in, voice sharp as a blade. Let's be real, Daniel. This farm, this graveyard, it's a relic. Your great-grandfather's work doesn't make you a protector, it makes you nostalgic. We're bringing progress. I nearly lost it. Don't you dare, I snapped, fists balled. Don't you stand on my family's graves and call it obsolete. You think you can waltz onto hallowed ground and shove HOA nonsense down my throat. Her mask slipped for a split second, but she recovered. Calm down. I stepped closer. Get off my land before I stop asking nicely. Her lackeys shifted nervously. Linda adjusted her glasses and turned. We'll be back. As they drove off, dust swirling, I stared past the fields. For the first time since I was a kid, this place didn't feel secure, it felt under siege. And I wasn't about to let that stand. What would you do if someone like Linda strutted onto your property, called your family's legacy trash, and dared you to back down? Drop a 1 in the comments if you tell her to get lost too. I didn't sleep that night. My boots wore tracks into the hardwood floors, every creak a warning. The farm didn't feel like mine, Anna Marie, it felt stalked. At dawn my cousin Jake called, voice tight. Dan, get to the county office now. I grabbed my keys and tore down the road, tires spitting gravel. I stormed into the office, past the startled clerk, and hit the records terminal. There it was, land transfer filing Pine VY EW Memorial Trust, 1,700 acres, finalized. My name, my family's land, signed away like a garage sale deal. My hands shook as I scrolled. Their glossy documents listed my farmy cemetery as Phase 1 of their memorial complex. My signature was there, neat and clear, but I'd never written it. I slammed the desk. What is this? The clerk flinched. Sir, it's public record. It's official. Official? I roared. I didn't sign a damn thing. My phone buzzed. I glanced out the window. Linda, parked across the street in her SUV, sunglasses glinting, smirking like she'd already won. When our eyes locked, she waved. I nearly broke the door, storming out. She didn't blink, just kept grinning. My fists trembled. Every tree, every stone in that cemetery flashed through my mind. They didn't just steal my land, they were about to pave over my ancestors and call it progress. Over my dead body. I glared across the street, vowing they'd pay for every inch. Back at the farmhouse, I tore through drawers, trunks, every corner until I found it an old envelope labeled water rights in faded ink, buried under my dad's journals. Inside was the 1943 agreement my great-grandfather signed, granting the county reservoir access on one condition. Our family controlled its use for agriculture. I stared at the signature, pulse racing. Linda and her HOA didn't just miss a detail, they missed the soul of this place. I knew where the valve was. 30 minutes later, I stood at the rusted junction box behind the orchard, axe in hand. I smashed the padlock off, gripped the wheel, and muttered, "This is my land, my water, my rules." I turned it. The pipes groaned, the gauge dropped. I wasn't just cutting water to the subdivision, I was choking their whole operation. Their sprinklers, fountains, that half-built cemetery all ran through my reservoir. Now nothing flowed. My phone blew up, text calls, Linda herself. I let it ring. The trap was set. By the time I finished my coffee, Pine VYEW Heights was unraveling. From my porch, I watched sprinklers sputter out, hoses go limp. HHats erupted, panic fury. Then came Linda's SUV roaring up my drive. She stumbled out, heels unsteady, flanked by two pale board members. "Daniel," she barked, "we need to talk." I didn't budge. "Do I look open for business?" Her jaw tightened. "The subdivision has no water. You shut it off, didn't you?" I sipped my coffee. "I prioritized agriculture like the law says. Guess you'll have to adapt." "You can't do this," she snapped. "Hundreds of families depend on that system." I stepped forward. "You should have thought of that before forging my name and trying to pave my family's graves." She flinched. A board member whispered, "Maybe we should—" "Shut up," Linda hissed. I tilted my head. "Cracking already? Thought you were tougher." She forced a smile. "Look, Daniel, let's negotiate compensation." I laughed, sharp and cold. "Compensation? You tried to rob me, and now you're begging with dry pipes." Her face burned. "This isn't over." I leaned in. "You're right, it's not. But you're already sinking, and I haven't even turned the valve all the way." I walked inside, Leah VYing them in the dust. For the first time in weeks, the land felt alive again. If you held that valve, watching them beg, would you turn the water back on or let them reap the drought they sowed? Tell me in the comments. They came back that evening, Linda, her full board, 2 county suits, and a nervous lawyer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. They marched onto my porch without knocking. Linda pointed. "We're not asking anymore. The county's here. We have authority." I leaned against the post. "You've got empty threats and dry faucets." The county rep coughed. "Mr. Grayson, under overlay adjustments, Pine VYEW Heights has zoning." "Cut the bull," I snapped. "Agricultural exemptions don't vanish because Linda says so. This reservoir's mine by law." Linda stepped up. "This water serves families, kids." I smirked. "Funny you didn't care about kids when you tried to bulldoze their great-grandparents' graves." Gasps rippled through the group. Linda's mask cracked. "You're unreasonable, reasonable." I roared. "You forged my name and tried to sell my dead kin." I closed the gap, towering over her. "You're on the wrong damn property if you think you'll get a drop." The county guy tried, maybe a settlement. No, I cut him off. "No deals with thieves." Linda's voice shook. "Elias, think of the community." "I said. The ones buried up there, the community. Silence hit hard. Doubt crept into the board's eyes. Linda pushed on. This will escalate. Escalate it, I said, stepping back. See if the law backs grave robbers. They stood there, dust swirling, realizing I wasn't bluffing, not about the water, not about the land. The next morning they returned Linda, the board, the county rep, and a slick developer in a tailored suit, the real puppet master. They marched to my barn where I was stacking feed. Linda spoke first. Daniel, this is Mr. Caldwell from West VYEW Memorial. I didn't turn. Of course it is. Caldwell chimed in, smooth as silk. Mr. Grayson, let's be CIVYL. We're offering generous compensation. I spun, eyes blazing. You think I care about money? You're standing on blood. This land's not for sale. Linda pressed. You're outnumbered, Daniel. The community, the county, West VYUV agreed. I stepped forward, boots pounding. Your agreements with yourselves. You're not negotiatingly finishing a theft. Jake emerged from the haystack, phone up, live streaming. And it's all on record. Linda paled. Caldwell adjusted his tie. This is an approved project. I jabbed a finger. Approved by fraud, me name, my consent forged. The air thickened. Linda's board wavered. I lowered my voice. You're trespassing. Walk away, or this gets permanent. Caldwell raised his hands. Let's stay calm. I grinned bitter. I am calm. You're the ones thirsty and I hold the tap. Linda snapped, this is harassment. Jake laughed. Sheriff's on Dan's side and watching the stream. Linda's composure shattered. You can't do this. We've invested too much. I pointed to the cemetery hill. Go tell them you're stealing their rest for profit. Silence. Even Caldwell faltered. I stepped back. You want this land? Rip it from the roots. But it won't be water you choke on. They left, defeated, not victorious. By sunset, the valley buzzed, HOA forums exploded. Lawns shriveled, water trucks failed. I let them flail. 2 days later, they were back at my gate. Linda, 3 board members, Caldwell, all rattled. Linda pushed through. Daniel, let's end this nonsense. Nonsense. I growled, stepping off the tractor. You're on my land, breathing my air, and lucky I'm still allowing that. Her voice cracked. Enough with the cowboy act. You've made your point. I'm just starting, I shot back. Your pipes are dry, your neighbors are furious, every crack lawns on you. Jake appeared, still recording. Caldwell tried, Mr. Grayson, with respect. I cut him off. Respect? Step back and let the adults talk. You're just the vulture waiting to cash in. Linda stepped closer, trembling. This project's bigger than you, bigger than this farm. Millions are invested. I smiled cold. I already stopped it. You're destroying the community, she barked. You did that when you faked my signature. Her board shifted. The treasurer, Paul, muttered, Linda, maybe we should. Shut up, Paul, she snapped. Big mistake. The others flinched, betrayal clear. I leaned in. This isn't about pipes or rules. It's about my great-grandfather digging this reservoir, about the cemetery you tried to turn into a sales pitch. Linda's lips quivered. It's just land, Daniel. No, I said it's legacy. Paul spoke up. We didn't know about the forgery. Linda said the Grayson family sold out years ago. She spun. Paul, don't. You lied. Another gasped. Caldwell edged back. Jake smirked, camera rolling. Linda pleaded. If we stick together. Together. Paul barked. You dragged us into this. I watched the fracture spread. You don't get it, I said. It's not just your water drying you, it's your power. Linda's breasts grew ragged. You'll ruin me. I met her gaze. You did that yourself. Jake stepped up. It's over, Linda. She had no reply, just silence. And on this farm, silence is a bad omen. What would you say to Linda, standing there alone after all her lies? Drop your exact words in the comments. The courtroom was packed, reporters, neighbors, rival farmers, all buzzing with tension. Linda sat rigid at the defendant's table, her lawyer wilted, her board avoiding her gaze. I walked in, boots steady on the wood floor. Not just a farmer today, but a man with the truth. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Carter took the bench, eyes like steel. My lawyer, Sarah, stood. Your Honor, this isn't a zoning spat, it's theft, fraud, and desecration of a family's heritage. Linda's lawyer squirmed. We dispute, save it, Carter snapped. Sarah laid it out: the original deed, the forged transfer, the 1943 water agreement, Linda's leaked emails. The defendant knowingly falsified documents to seize 1,700 acres from Mr. Grayson, Sarah said. Gasps filled the room. Linda's lawyer mumbled, "A misunderstanding," I stood. "A misunderstanding? You signed my name and tried to pave my family's bones for profit." Linda flinched. Carter nodded. "I've seen the EVY Denke. Probable cause for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. All construction stops now." Linda's jaw dropped. "Your Honor," she pleaded, "that site's a mess. It'll take months." "Not my problem," Carter said. "You made it, you fix it." Jake grinned. "Gonna need more than a rake." Linda's lawyer shrugged, beaten. Carter added, "Criminal charges go to the DA." Linda's knees buckled. Paul buried his face. The gavel fell like thunder. Outside, cameras swarmed. Linda pushed through, but it was pointless. Jake clapped my back. "Not bad for a farmer." I exhaled. "It's not over." I'd make sure she felt every second of the cleanup. 2 weeks later, they arrived, Linda in a stained vest and muddy boots, her board like mourners, a supervisor barking orders. I watched from the porch as she swung a sledgehammer at the half-built cemetery arch, her own monument crumbling fast. "Move it," the supervisor yelled. "Court says 4 weeks." Linda glared at me. I didn't blink. "Smile for the cameras." Jake and locals filmed, phones out. No one helped. Linda stumbled, cursing, hands blistering. Paul struggled with rebar, others hauled debris like convoy-CTS. "Understaffed." I called. Linda snapped. "This is humiliation." "No," I said. "It's justice." Neighbors chuckled. Day after day, they dismantled their betrayal. By week 3, the site was rubble. Linda collapsed, filthy, as they tore down the last column. I walked up. "You built this with lies. Now you're tearing it down with your hands." "Please, Daniel, it's done," she gasped. I crouched. "Not yet. You still have to clean it." Her eyes watered, but I didn't care. She'd chosen this. The land was fighting back, and it wouldn't stop until the debt was paid. After the last stone was gone, I stood in the scarred clearing, raw but true. Jake asked, "Still doing it?" "Damn right," I said. Word spread. Volunteers came, farmers, kids, even ex-Pine VYEW residents. We rebuilt, not a commercial graveyard, but a sanctuary, the Pine VYEW Honor Cemetery. No logos, just a hand-carved sign, to those who came before, who stood their ground, and the roots that hold us. Families planted trees, oaks, pines, whatever spoke to them. Linda's profit scheme became a leave-wying tribute. At the dedication, neighbors stood together, no HOA pomp, just tears and laughter. Linda watched from outside the fence, a ghost in her battered SUV. The court barred her, but the real punishment was seeing her failure bloom into something pure. I walked to the fence. "You tried to sell this place," I said, "but it's not for sale, ever was." She bit her lip. "You think I hate you?" I asked. "No, I pity you. You didn't just lose a project, you lost your place." She turned away, silent. Behind me, the valley rang with light hammers, laughter, roots sinking deep. A week later, the town council voted. Tom, now HOA president, stood tall. First, a permanent ordinance. Daniel Grayson's land, including the Honor Cemetery, is a historical preserve. No HOA or developer touches it again. The room roared unanimous. Second, Tom said, remove Linda Hayes from Pine VYEW Heights HOA permanently. Linda, in the back, flinched. No one defended her. The vote passed. Outside, I faced her by her SUV. "You thought you'd build something bigger than this town. You didn't. You tried to bury it, but you showed us what we almost lost." She said nothing. "You're not one of us anymore," I finished, walking away as the cemetery bells rang. 6 months later, the valley healed wildflowers where concrete once stood, saplings rising strong. The Honor Cemetery was simple, alive with stone paths and trees planted by kids who'd learned what legacy meant. Tom nailed up the final plaque, "For those who came before, who stood their ground, and who will come after." "Enough?" he asked. I smirked. "Plenty." Neighbors laughed together, HOA rules forgotten. Linda was gone, sold her SUV, left town. I barely thought of her. That evening I sat on the porch, kids chasing chickens through the trees. Tom joined me. "Think your grandfather would believe this?" He'd say the land remembers, I replied. He'd be damn proud. We watched families gather by the old pump, now the community's heart. The best part, I said. We didn't just win. We reclaimed. The wind stirred the branches, old voices whispering approval. The land was home again, and no one would take it. This fight wasn't about acres or water rights, it was about roots. Not just the ones under the soil, but the ones inside us, tying us to family, memory, the promises we keep. Linda thought land was paper, a signature to erase history. You can't pave legacy. You can't buy heritage. You can't bully people out of who they are. Legacy is standing firm, saying no, holding the line. The water, the trees, the dirt, theory, memory, power. We won because we remembered, fought because it mattered, refused to forget. So if someone's at your door, Linda, a developer, a thief in a suit trying to take what's yours, remember this: you don't need the loudest voice or the most cash. If you've got roots, if you know your ground and will fight for it, you'll outlast any storm. The land never forgets, neither should you. Would you have pushed harder or let them off easier? Drop a 1 if you'd have done the same, a 2 if I went too far. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, more tales of justice are coming. Keep standing tall.